Hello, Hastings, and welcome, and the rest of you joining us. Welcome to this Hastings Candidate Forum for 2016. I'm Tom Wright with Hastings Community TV, and I am the moderator for tonight's forum. Here's what you can expect. We're going to talk about what you can watch or listen in this forum. You can tell your friends this is going out live on Channel 16 for those who have cable TV in Hastings. This is also live online. We have a live stream set up to the world on our Facebook page. You can also listen to it live on KDWA 1460 AM and 97.7 on the FM dial. And if you miss anything, have no fear. We also will be posting this online on our YouTube channel, so it'll be available there afterwards, and also replaying on Channel 16 as well. However you are tuning in, here's what's in store for you folks. You'll get to hear from all the candidates running for City Council, ward by ward, starting with Ward 1 here. Then you will get to hear from the candidates running to represent you at the state capitol in both the Minnesota House and the Senate. This is the anticipated schedule tonight for those of you watching at home. We have a schedule posted up there, and we could get ahead of that and we can get behind it, but it should be about where we hit. And this does include a 5-minute transition break in between the races. Before we start with our candidates for Ward 1 here, I want to lay out the rules of play here. First of all, this is a forum and not a debate. The candidates will have 1 minute to answer their question, and they will own that minute and can use it as they wish. There will be no interruptions. If the other candidate has to respond to something said, they must wait to do so during their next answer. The candidates were provided the questions 1 week in advance. The exception, of course, is the one question they will get to ask each other. Audience will not be able to ask questions during this forum, but you're very welcome to ask questions afterwards out in the forum in the area there and with the candidates. All right, now with that all set, we can now finally let these two do the talking. I'd like to introduce your candidates running for Ward 1, Mr. Brian Alpaugh and Tina Folk. Yes, we can clap. We do need an applause sign here. Thank you. I will note here, there is no incumbent in this race as the current Ward 1 council member chose to not run for re-election. With that said, let's start with you, Mr. Alpaugh, with your opening statement. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Brian Alpaugh. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me here tonight. As a current two-term Hastings Planning Commission member, I've seen a lot of projects come through the commission that I believe have been great wins for our city. And I'm proud to be a part of that process. The reinvestment in the riverfront, the advancement of the arts, the restoration of some of our history, and of course those projects that display growing confidence of companies to invest in our city by bringing their business and creating local jobs. I came to Hastings 12 years ago, drawn by the beautiful river and the great schools for my daughter to finish her high school education. But it's been the historic town charm that has kept me captivated here all of these years. My first winter here, I became an active member of the local snowmobile club and a certified safety instructor so I could work with the residents to ensure that our youth are properly trained to safely utilize the trails in and around Hastings.
Please wrap it up, Mr. Alpaugh.
Okay, I care about the city and dedicated to work with and our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Folk, could you please provide your opening statement?
Sure. Hello, I'm Tina Folch, and I'm a Hastings native. I'm running for City Council, Ward 1. I'm the mother of 2 teenage boys. Both are student athletes, making me a very proud hockey and football mom. My background includes I have a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from the College of St. Catherine and a Master's in Public Administration from the Hamline University School of Business. After I graduated, I went to work for the state of Minnesota for 16 years. I worked for the Department of Public Safety, the Department of Employment and Economic Development, and MnDOT. Currently, I work for the City of Red Wing as the Contracts Administrator and Sustainability Liaison. An example of my work is recently I secured a 25-year solar garden subscription, which will save Red Wing over $6.5 million. My volunteer experience includes over 3 years on the Cottage Grove Planning Commission and the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. For the past 2 years, I've been volunteering as a confirmation teacher at Our Saviors. I'm here tonight because I'd like to use the experience I've gained to serve the community that I love.
All right, and we'll stay with you, Ms. Fulch. Why are you running? And tell us, what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
Great, thanks. Well, what matters most to me is that Hastings is safe, vibrant, and friendly for both families and our businesses. I'm genuinely concerned about the needs of our neighborhoods, and I want to increase opportunities for community members to feel connected. As for leadership qualities, I have a good deal of experience in strategic planning at the state level. For instance, I organize statewide law enforcement campaigns, working with all levels of law enforcement. I've assisted with disaster recovery planning, and I sat on the state's grant management governance body, providing financial management expertise. At the local level, my leadership involvement includes my role at the City of Red Wing as the liaison to the Sustainability Commission. Having spent 3 years serving on the Planning Commission and Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee for the City of Cottage Grove, I also have experience there. Last, I'm a certified public procurement officer, which means I am a seasoned fiscal agent. I have the experience, knowledge, and passion to be an effective member of the council here in Hastings.
Thank you. And for you, Mr. Alpal, why are you running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
I have chosen to run for City Council in this election because I have enjoyed being an active participant in our city's governmental process through my role in the Planning Commission, and I'd like to expand that role. 97% of the residents rate the quality of life in Hastings to be good to excellent. We all know that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of great vision and leadership representing their citizens. I understand the value of small town feel of this historic river city and believe that I can continue that type of leadership. As a 25-year state employee working in the service-oriented information technology industry, over 20 years of that in management, I understand how to work with people, to listen when they have something to say, and to provide the necessary leadership to work through difficult situations, to reach suitable resolutions, and to produce budgets that focus on project prioritization and fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Alpal, with this next question. What is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by local government, if at all?
I believe that the current state of our business climate here within Hastings to be good. We've had a number of businesses either close, leave town, or downsize in recent years, taking some good jobs with them. However, more recently we've seen more new businesses move into town and seen existing ones expand, creating new jobs. I believe that Hastings needs to continue that positive growth by creating a more desirable economic environment for business, to get those new jobs and to help retain more money within our local economy. We need to promote the many incentives and programs currently provided by the city and the state to help encourage the growth of new and existing businesses, and to continue our work with the Hastings Chamber of Commerce and their scope of economic development resources to build a stronger business climate here in Hastings.
And Ms. Fulch, what is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by local government, if at all?
Sure. Well, let's first acknowledge the growth that Hastings has undergone since I was a kid here. The hot spots back in the day were Hardee's, Perman's, and the little movie theater down on 2nd Street, right? So the fact is, in the past few decades, we've had a lot of growth here in Hastings, and the issues have become more complicated. I've heard from business owners that are greatly concerned about the high cost of the city's sewer and water connection fees, which are known as whack and sack. The business owners that I've spoken to generally are concerned about the lack of transparency that the city has displayed about how these fees are calculated. We owe it to our businesses to look for ways to reduce these fees and make cost sharing more fair for business development. The second problem for local businesses is finding skilled labor and keeping them. I'm not totally sure about what the solution here is to this problem, but I do know that there are programs that the state has, for instance, within the Department of Employment and Economic Development, where they've been working on making connections between major employers and colleges. So we could look at what they're doing and see if that is something that we could replicate here at the local level. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you on this next question. What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
Sure. Well, most people are happy with our community when I've been out, but I do have 3 primary areas that I'd like to address. First, here in Ward 1, the Historic District, it struggles with the overly rigid constraints of the historic preservation guidelines. We all recognize the importance of preserving some of these homes, but it should not be on the burden these homeowners with excessive oversight and then renovation costs. I think the authority of the Historic Preservation Commission should be restructured. Second, when the 2008 recession hit, due to the budget constraints here in Hastings, we had to reduce the number of police officers on our streets. The most frequent concerns I have heard during door knocking evolve around public safety issues. Since our economy has recovered, I think it's time to invest in community policing. And third, have you paid attention to the entryways into Hastings from the north and the south onto Highway 61? We need to breathe new life into these gateways. I think we should have task forces consisting of business owners, the city, and residents to identify action items to improve these areas specifically. Thank you.
Mr. Alpa, your turn with that one. What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
Throughout my campaign, I've met a lot of residents who have had different ideas on ways to improve Hastings. Many spoke about the Rivertown Renaissance project and the positive impact they believe that it has already had. I have to agree with them, but we can't stop there. We also need to continue the Renaissance down the Vermilion Corridor to help make it more desirable for potential development. Throughout history, one of the greatest assets has always been the river, and I believe we need to exploit that for the benefit of the residents and visitors. By continuing the promotion of development along the river, it encourages people to visit. It'll inspire them to stay, to enjoy the arts, the trails, other various community activities and events, not to mention some of the local establishments as well. I believe we need to make Hastings a visitor destination between Stillwater, Red Wing, and not just a pass-through to get there.
Thank you. We will now hear the questions you have for each other. And we're going to stay with the first to respond alternating. So Mr. Alpa, you will be responding to Ms. Fultz, your question to Mr. Alpa. So, and just so our audience is aware, parameters were set for this question. In a nutshell, we said candidates cannot ask anything personal and must be understood by the general public. And these questions have been vetted beforehand, so we shouldn't have any surprises. Shouldn't. And so, again, we can go with you, Ms. Fulch, with your question for Mr. Alpa.
Okay. I tried to make it easy. How do you work with differences of opinion when you are in a group decision-making process, such as being a member of the City Council?
Well, certainly everybody has their own opinion, and often you can run into differences of that opinion. You just need to understand where everybody is with their own opinions and try to see if there is commonality between those, to work with that, to understand where they're coming from, why they have that particular opinion, and what can be done to maybe bring those opinions, those differing opinions, much closer together.
Okay. And Mr. Alpa, you may now ask your question to Ms. Fulch.
Having current experience and knowledge working with the City of Hastings, city government is certainly a big advantage to understanding the existing challenges facing the City Council today. How do you believe that your recent move to a Hastings ward after a 15-year absence will impact your ability to understand and address the current challenges facing the city today?
Oh, well, actually, I was living just on the north side of the bridge. Have you ever heard of Pine Coulee, which is behind Erickson Marine? So it's actually Hastings School District and Hastings mailing address. And it was actually about a year after I was living there that I realized I wasn't living in Hastings. I was actually on the very tip of Cottage Grove. I was maybe like a quarter of a mile inside of the boundary there. And I had actually contacted the city so that I could be on the planning commission, and to my surprise, I wasn't a resident. And so that's when I decided to approach the city of Cottage Grove, and they were more than happy to have me. And so I did volunteer there for 3 years. And so actually I've had my foot kind of in both communities, so to speak. I moved here because I am a member of the Hastings community, and I love it here, and I wanted to raise my family here. So I guess it's kind of a null point because I have been a community member for the last 16 years. Thanks.
Okay. And Ms. Fulch, we'll stay with you on the closing statement here. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
Great. Well, thanks. I am going to be honest. I am a single mom, and life is pretty hectic between work and helping with school work and running the kids to activities. So with the little free time that I do have, I want to invest in something that's very meaningful to me. And with all this experience that I've gained over the years, I feel the best way that I can be of service is to do something that betters my lifelong community, not just for my boys, but for all of our families. I promise if you vote for me, I will listen and I will ask to hear your concerns. I will be dedicated to advocating for our neighborhoods and our businesses. Also, I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions. For those of you that know me, know that I'm not shy. And I'll not shy away from those tough questions that need to be asked because I'm not afraid to cause waves. My experience matters because I believe we need to make our community more resilient today as we keep our eye to the future so that generations to come have the same pride in our town as we do today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Alpa, your closing statement. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
Thank you. Home ownership always has been, and I hope will always be, part of the American dream. And whether you grew up in Hastings and have chosen to stay here, or whether you've moved here like I have, we're all here for that reason, to share in that American dream. As a member of the City Council, I will remember that fact in every decision that I make. My goal is to work with and for the citizens of Hastings so that they can enjoy their dream safely, securely, and without prejudice. I'm not a politician, and I have no political agenda. I'm a long-term citizen of Hastings with that same dream and an aspiration to make sure this city continues to serve its residents. Hastings is a beautiful river city with a great history. I believe that it is incumbent upon this council to continue that position for this city for continued growth while ensuring that we protect its historical past.
Great. Well, thank you both, again, coming and participating. This is a lot we're asking of you and really appreciate it. I'm sure many of those in the audience and those at home watching this are really appreciative of this as well. So thank you both. How about a round of applause for our first candidates? That concludes this segment for your candidates for Ward 1, Mr. Brian Alpa and Ms. Tina Fulch. Thank you both again for participating. We will now take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back with the candidates for Ward 2. For those watching, if you miss any of this, this will be posted online on our YouTube channel again. And for those that would like to ask candidates questions, you're welcome to do so out in the atrium area there. Thank you. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Hello and welcome back to our next candidate or race here for the candidate forum in Hastings 2016. We are now going to hear from the candidates running for Ward 2 in Hastings City Council, Mr. Joe Belsanik, the incumbent candidate, and we are also going to hear from his opponent, Mr. Adam Estenson. Thank you, gentlemen, both for participating. Before we get started, I do want to quickly, for those that are just tuning in now or watching this particular race, I do want to go over the rules just really quick, recap. This is a forum, not a debate. The candidates will each have a minute to answer the question. They will own that minute and can use it as they wish, and there will be no interruptions. If the other candidate has something to say, they must wait to do so during their next answer. The candidates were provided the questions 1 week in advance. The exception is the one question they will get to ask each other. An audience will not be able to ask questions, and again, we'll be able to ask afterwards. With that set, we're going to start with you, Mr. Joe Belsanik, on your opening statement. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Joe Belsanik, and we're going to talk real fast here. I'm 70 years old, turned 70 in August, and I have a partial and hearing aids to prove it. I'm seeking my third term in the Ward 2 City Council election. I'm a retired professor from Hamline University and Inver Hills College for a combined 30 years. I'm a retired member of the Air Force Air National Guard serving 22 years, and I've owned my own small business, Designs Plus, for over 40 years. I've been married 47 years to Betsy, and we have 3 married children and 6 grandchildren. My education includes Community College of the Air Force, a BA from Adrian College, and a Master of Fine Arts from Ohio University. I serve on the board of directors of the Dakota Communications 911 Center. Over the past 2 years, I've been commander of the Hastings American Legion, and right now I'm the chairperson of the city's Public Works Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Estenson, please introduce yourself and provide information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Good evening, and a big thanks to the team of people that are working real hard to put this forum together tonight. My father's side of the family has been in Minnesota since they came from Norway in the 1850s. I'm a sixth-generation Minnesotan and have lived in Hastings for 18 years. Currently, I live with my wife, Carrie. We've been married for 8 years, and we have 2 daughters, a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. I finished middle school here in Hastings and graduated from Hastings High School in 2004. I attended the University of Wisconsin River Falls, earning a degree in land use planning. I helped to run our family business, Perfect Incorporated, that we've operated for over 10 years, and it's officed out of my parents' home here in Hastings. I also supervise a transportation terminal of 60 employees for Hastings Bus Company in Denmark Township. In high school, I served as the youth representative to the St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Pastoral Council. I serve as president of my homeowners association. I'm privileged to be in my 6th year of appointment to the Hastings Planning Commission. In addition, my fellow commissioners have entrusted me for the 3rd year as the commission's chairman.
Thank you, and we'll stay with you for this next question. Mr. Estenson, why are you running? And tell us, what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
I'm running to offer Ward 2 options in this election. A leader's role is to lift barriers and help people become the best versions of themselves. The quality at the core of a leader is listening. True listening occurs by understanding perspective. Perspectives are as unique as fingerprints. When someone approaches me with an issue or a question, despite all the wheels turning in my head, I realize that that's the most important thing to them at that moment. And as a leader, I owe them the time of day. I listen with empathy because I want to see their perspective through their eyes. When we do this enough, we begin to form a universal understanding that gives us a true pulse on our community. It drives engagement with our citizens and leads to fully informed decision-making and consensus building. By being the best version of myself as a leader, I can help citizens and businesses become the best versions of themselves. In turn, Hastings becomes the best version of itself.
And Mr. Belsanik, why are you running? And tell us, what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
I'm the only veteran, the only senior citizen, the only professional artist, and the only business owner on the city council. I want to be sure that those voices are fully represented in all city council discussions and decisions. The past 8 years have been very rewarding for me, helping Ward 2 residents find solutions to the concerns that they have. I've organized a number of neighborhood groups over the years. For example, we've held neighborhood meetings, signed petitions, and had email correspondence on MnDOT's proposal to raise the speed limit on Highway 55 between the middle school and Todd Field. We have a group right now working on opposing a cell phone tower by the roadside park tennis courts. And we have a neighborhood watch group dealing with a level 3 sex offender that the state moved into Ward 2 neighborhoods. As a retiree, I have ample time to assist Ward 2 residents with situations like these and many others.
Thank you. And we will stay with you for this next question. Mr. Belsanik, what is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by local government, if at all?
You want all that in 60 seconds. Here we go.
We do.
Small business is the lifeblood of a community, offering a variety of goods and services, plus employment to its citizens, both young and old. Is our business climate healthy? Yes. In my 8 years on the city council, if you look around, you'll see that over 30 new businesses have opened here in Hastings, and over 30 existing businesses continue to invest, remodel, renovate, and expand here. Email me and I'll send you the list. Can we do better? Of course we can. My major business goal is to develop a high-technology business park in Ward 2 to the west of the future Alina Clinic and Walmart. With it, we would offer alternative energy sources like wind, solar, and geothermal. Yes, you have to drive through corn to get here, but we have our new bridge. We're only 20 minutes from St. Paul and the airport, and we're only 60 minutes from Rochester and the world-famous Mayo Clinic. We're prime territory for new business.
You made it. Thank you. And you, Mr. Estenson, your turn. What is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs? And how do you feel those needs could be addressed by local government, if at all?
Our business climate is on the brink of growth. We have several developments, including art space lofts, that are breaking ground that will be a catalyst for this community. With the completion of bridge construction and the riverfront renaissance, we have momentum to help our businesses regroup and begin to attract other businesses to town. That being said, the council needs to take a hard look at how it interacts with the businesses already in Hastings. We need to do everything in our power to keep our businesses here. We need to foster the growth of our local business to create more jobs, and that will in turn attract other companies. I would address these issues by asking some hard questions. Are we treating businesses equally no matter their size? Are we stifling business by demanding that our job creators carry a disproportionate burden of fees and taxes? Finally, can in certain instances a city do better by just stepping out of the way?
And Mr. Estenson, this next one is for you. What ideas do you have or have heard from others? You have.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes. It is Mr. Estenson's turn. What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
It's no secret that you don't have to be on city council to be involved with city council decisions. How do we drive that engagement and exchange of ideas? It could be as simple as moving our comments from the audience to the beginning of council meetings. Imagine taking these innovative ideas from our neighbors all the way through implementation within the city. How many great ideas have been lost because a person either didn't know how to engage their elected officials or felt that their official was unapproachable? Council members should expand their accessibility through means of technology and social media. I also think we need to capitalize on our outdoor recreational resources. Hastings has a national park and is positioned on a massive trail network. I want to see more events involving biking and winter sports. We would be well served also to ensure that our sports facilities and fields are always the best that they can be. We can start to attract more tournaments, marathons, and races. These are the things that bring people to town. The way I see it is the reason you'd never come back to Hastings is if you've never been here before.
And now your turn, Mr. Belsanik, for this one. What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
Businesses in the Chamber of Commerce told me that we need to reevaluate our water and sewer whack and sack fees, what a great term, for new business and existing business expansion. At a chamber workshop, we compared our fees with other cities, and the conclusion was there's room for improvement. So right now, for example, we're working with the Hastings Creamery, one of the oldest businesses, with the fees for their expansion plans. They're a big employer, retailer, and taxpayer, and a part of what makes Hastings great, and I don't want to lose them. Coming very soon, we have Art Space Lofts, Great Rivers Landing, adding over 100 market-rate apartments in the historic downtown. That'll be an economic shot in the arm, and we anticipate a variety of new shops coming because of that growth. And finally, a flourish with the opening of the Rotary Pavilion, Leduc Mansion, Hastings Arts Center, and Breakaway Arts, all offering a full range of fine arts education, performance, recreation, and entertainment, all enhancing our quality of life.
Thank you. All right, and now you will be able to respond to this next one first, Mr. Belsanik, and we are now at the question where you will ask each other. And just for those that are tuning in here tonight, we did have parameters for this question. In a nutshell, nothing personal, and must be understood by the general public. And that these questions have been vetted, so we shouldn't have any surprises. And again, the first to ask their question will be Mr. Estenson, and you may take it away.
Councilmember Belsanik, once your time on the City Council has come to an end, be it in this election or in the future, what will be your legacy to the City of Hastings?
Well, I would like to think that I did help improve the quality of life in this city. There are things that I still would like to do. I was talking to the fire chief the other day, and we have that old fire truck that we'd like to get renovated, perhaps through some private funding, things like that. But what I would like people to remember is that I was open to discussion, that I was not pig-headed, that I did change my mind based on what other council members were saying, and that I wore what I believed on my sleeve.
Okay. And now your turn, Mr. Belsanik. You may ask your question to Mr. Estenson.
Yes, Adam, please describe 4 good things that the city has done in the last few years.
I would think one of them would be the Riverfront Renaissance. I think that's fantastic, and I won't take the pavilion as a second answer. I'll include that in there. I think the work with the city and the Rotary Club, that's been fantastic. I would say that I believe that that's part of why I'm running, I think, is that I look at what we need to get done, and that we've had, I believe, in term limits, and I believe that's because of stagnation. And I think the Riverfront Renaissance is a great catalyst, but what's next? We've seen some businesses leave town, but I apologize, I'm not able to answer that question fully. Good job on the Riverfront Renaissance.
Thank you. And Mr. Estenson, we'll stay with you for the closing statement. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
I may be younger, but I have over a decade of leadership experience in both private business and governing bodies. My wife and I have chosen to stay in Hastings and raise our family. I want to show my children that if you set your mind to it and keep a positive mental attitude and you work hard for what you want, all things are possible. I listen to those who have come before me, and I take great stock in their triumphs and tribulations. Armed with their wisdom and a fresh perspective, I still believe all things are possible, especially if we can truly listen to our neighbors and open ourselves up to honest conversation. These conversations will not always be the most comfortable, nor should they. This is the collaboration that brings the best ideas to the forefront. These ideas are the innovation which leads to community growth. I am willing to be a driving force in this community. That is why I ask you to elect me, Adam Estenson, as the next council member to represent the people of Ward 2 and the city of Hastings. You can always email me or find me on facebook.com/Estenson, the number 4, Ward, and the number 2, Estenson 4, Ward 2. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Belsanik, your turn. Please, this is your opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
A veteran, senior citizen, artist, business owner. That's the perspective that Joe Belsanik has brought to the city council meetings out of Ward 2 over the last 8 years. I'm proud of those years that I served you. You're entrusting your council, 7 people who are your neighbors and friends, with the responsibility of a $23 million budget, the good judgment to make impartial policies, and the wisdom to create a progressive and safe community. We're 7 individuals working as one for a community that's inviting to new business, a community offering recreation and the arts, a community that's safe for everyone, from the young to the young at heart. We're a city that works smoothly, seamlessly. That's my Hastings, and that's your Hastings. That's what Joe Belsanik brings to the city council as a veteran, senior citizen, artist, and business owner. And for that, I would appreciate your vote on November 8th. Thank you for watching this forum. May God bless you all, and may God bless the United States of America in this forthcoming election.
Thank you both for coming in tonight again. How about a hand for our candidates for Ward 2? For anybody that missed part of this, would like to watch the entire race or this forum, you can catch it on our YouTube channel. And we will be right back in 5 minutes to meet our candidates for Ward 3. Hello again, Hastings, and everybody else joining us on TV, online, or on the radio. I'm Tom Wright, moderating tonight's Hastings Candidate Forum for 2016. We are now going to meet and hear from our candidates running for Ward 3 of the Hastings City Council. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Lisa Liefeld and Mr. Tony Nelson. Now, before we get started, for those just tuning in or just joining us here in the audience, I just want to go over the quick rules of play here. This is a forum, not a debate. The candidates will each have a minute to answer their question, and they will own that minute and can use it as they wish. There will be no interruptions. If the other candidate has to respond to something, they said they must wait to do so during their next answer. The candidates were provided the questions 1 week in advance. The exception is the one question they will get to ask each other. The audience will not be able to ask questions, but you, of course, are very welcome to ask questions out in the forum afterwards. With that said, we can start with you, Ms. Liefeld, on the introduction opening statement here. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Thank you. Well, good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the Hastings Chamber. I would like to thank the Hastings Community TV for hosting this forum and for inviting me. Hastings is a great community. I'm very fortunate enough to have lived here my entire life. I went to school here, I raised 7 kids here, and I'm fortunate enough to work here every single day. I've worked in the private sector for my entire career. I spent 15 years working at Blue Cross Blue Shield in Eagan, and then was very fortunate to get a job at Wells Fargo and spent the past 12 years here in Hastings. So I'll bring valuable, real-life experience to the City Council. I'm not a politician. This is my first campaign. However, I wanted to run for City Council because I love my city. And I know that I can help build a place where my kids and their families will want to live down the road. I interact with business owners and residents every single day during my job, and in my job, as a result, I know what is going on in our community. I know that I can represent my city well with my fresh ideas and my new perspectives. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, and I should note an incumbent in this race. Mr. Nelson, please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Sure. Thank you, Tom. I'm Tony Nelson. I was born and raised in Hastings, much like a lot of people that still live in town. I did grow up north of the city, in Denmark Township too, but not in Pine Coulee. So I know that. Graduated from Hastings High School in 1991. I have 2 boys that are in high school. I'm married to another local Hastings gal for over 20 years. I've owned a home in Ward 3 for over 20 years. I currently am a finance manager at Dakota County in Hastings for the last 12 years. I'm also a self-employed tax preparer with over 20 years of experience. Prior to getting elected to the City Council, I volunteered for 2 years on the Park and Rec Commission. I have served Ward 3 for the last 8 years as their City Council member. I chair the Park and Rec and Utilities Committees, and I also sit on the Finance and the Operations Committee.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Nelson. Tell us, why are you running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
Sure, thanks. I am running for re-election for my 3rd term of serving Ward 3 and the City of Hastings. As far as skills go, I have a strong finance background and tax background, so I have the ability to understand the city's budget needs and figure out the best way to spend your hard-earned tax dollars. We know those tax dollars are limited, and we want to spend those wisely. I have an 8-year history of making tough budget decisions. There's a lot of wants, there's a lot of needs in the city, but we only have so much money to spend on those wants and needs. Just want to remind people that City Council is a hard job, and we put in a lot of hours, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. Experience is very important. The 8 years of experience that I bring to the council, I think, should be rewarded. Thanks.
All right. And Ms. Liefeld, please tell us why you are running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
You know, I feel that in order to be an effective council member and a true leader in our community, you need to have clear priorities based on what it is you're hearing from residents and businesses when you take office. As a result of what I've been hearing personally, I've developed a positive 3-point plan for Hastings focused on economic development, providing more opportunities for our youth, and keeping Hastings beautiful. My ideas for economic development are that we need to bring more jobs to our city by encouraging development, re-examining fees and taxes that we impose on our businesses as well as our developers. We need to encourage businesses to locate here and not expect those who are already here to pay more. When I talk about youth in our community, we all agree that our youth are the future of our community. We need to find more ways to get them involved in our city. We have an incredibly beautiful historic downtown. I think we can build on that by working more closely with the Chamber of Commerce and encouraging tourism, as well as taking another look at our 2030 comprehensive plan, our sign ordinance, and the plan for the Vermilion Corridor. You never get a second chance to make a
Please
first
wrap it up, Ms.
impression,
Liefeld.
and there are areas in need of aesthetic enhancements.
Thank you. You will get to answer this one first, Ms. Liefeld. What is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by the local government, if at all?
I talk with business owners who live with the economic struggles of running a business, not people who sit on committees, but owners who have had to make real sacrifices, tough decisions to meet payroll. These are the people that I talk to. Our city government cannot continue to be seen as a roadblock to doing business in Hastings, but rather as an advocate for those who want to come and do business here. City Hall needs to be a willing and helpful partner, a partner with the people who want to locate here, who want to create jobs, and for those who want to expand their local businesses. Having a strong business environment here helps all parts of our community. Take the schools as an example. If there were more job opportunities in Hastings, more families with school-age children would move here. They would enroll their children in our schools, and now the declining enrollment is no longer an issue. I want to work together with the Hastings Chamber. I want to brainstorm on how we can attract more businesses here and keep those that we currently have. I'm concerned when I hear about companies such as the Creamery who are thinking of moving away from Hastings. That is a genuine concern for me, and it should be a concern for you as well.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, your turn for this one. What is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by local government, if at all?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. I think the overall business climate is fine. We're in fine shape here in the city of Hastings. I think the way that the city can help assist the business climate is to use the developmental tools that we have in our toolbox. We have TIF. We've used that. We have tax abatement. We've yet to use that, but we've had some requests for it. We've had city purchase. We've used that. And we have the waiver of city fees. However, we can't be giving away all of our money. We have limited tax dollars, and we still have to make plans for the future. Just some examples of the business climate that we've expanded on. We've used TIF for the Hudson building. It's going to be a great building once it comes time to build that. We've had city purchase of the Hudson building as well. We've used TIF for the Napa building, where we have the auto parts store. We have a lot of businesses that stay growing in the city of Hastings, and I want to keep that drive alive. Thanks.
Okay. And we'll stay with you for this next question. What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
Sure. First off, Hastings is a river town, and we need to utilize the river a little bit more. I propose that we start working with the Army Corps of Engineers to figure out how we can get more boats to stop here in the city of Hastings. We need a bigger marina. Could you imagine if we could somehow refurbish Lake Rebecca into a marina so that boats could stop here and utilize our downtown? And then that would make it a lot easier to have a nice boat launch that we wouldn't have to launch right into the city, right into the Mississippi River in the city. However, in Ward 3, which I'm specifically in charge of, we have some underused areas that should be top priority to redevelop. Part of that is on Highway 61 and Highway 47. That's the anchor of Ward 3 there, and it's a big part of the corridor. We almost had a development there, but that fell through and Quick Trip moved to 17th Street, which is a fine building there. It replaced a couple of old-looking buildings, and we got a nice, brand-new-looking building out of it. But we still have to make that redevelopment fit in with the neighborhoods. That's the one thing about Ward 3. There's a lot of business that backs up to the residential areas, and we have to make sure that that fits. Thanks.
Thank you. And back to you, Ms. Liefeld, for this one as well. What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
I would like to speak for a moment about the budget. I favor taking a conservative approach to finances that doesn't assume that our revenue is going to continue to grow at its current rate. We need to allow for the potential loss of government aid from the state because it's been unreliable over the years. Cities that budget conservatively and plan ahead are much better prepared to weather inevitable economic downturns. Another thing that I'll commit to is to stay engaged with the residents of Ward 3. I'll put out regular updates on social media, produce an e-newsletter so that everyone can stay involved and in the know. My email and my phone number will always be published, and I'll get back to you. I want to truly represent the people of Ward 3, and that means staying in close touch. I want everyone to know that Lisa Liefeld is their city council member and that I will listen to them. And although we may not always agree, my door is always open, and you'll always know where I stand.
Thank you. That brings us to the question that you will each get to ask each other. And we will start with Mr. Nelson. We'll be asking the question to you, Ms. Liefeld. So, Mr. Nelson, and before I let you ask that, I just want to make our audience aware that may just be tuning in. We do have parameters set. In a nutshell, they cannot be personal. The questions must be understood by the general public, and they have been vetted. They were submitted beforehand, and so we shouldn't have any surprises. Shouldn't. Now to you, Mr. Nelson, you may ask your question.
Thanks, Tom. Lisa, in 2008, you lost the primary election for Ward 3 City Council member. Since that time, approximately how many city council meetings have you attended, and do you recall the reason why you attended?
Interesting question. This is actually my first campaign. In 2008, people had come to me. There was a retirement going on, and people were really excited about some new, fresh energy, some new ideas. So I had a number of people come to me and want me to put my name in the hat. I thought it over. I thought it seemed like a really great idea. 2 to 3 weeks in, I'd received some calls from Tom. I'd received some calls from the newspaper. And I found out at that point, this wasn't the time for me. It wasn't the time that I could commit to my city. I had 7 kids at home 8 years ago. Not 2. I had 7. At the time, I had 3 dogs and 2 cats, and there's probably a hamster and a rat in my house. I didn't have the time to focus on my city. I was focusing on my family. So although I didn't lose a primary election, I chose 3 weeks in to withdraw my candidacy so I could spend time with my family. Now my family has grown. And here I am, 8 years later, ready to give my city, my hometown, my all. Thank you.
Can I ask that she answer the second part of the question?
We have to move on, Mr. Nelson. If you have something to say, you may use your next minute. Ms. Liefeld, it is your turn to now ask your question to Mr. Nelson.
Councilmember Nelson, you've been on the city council for 8 years now. Have you ever voted one way and now wish you could go back and change your vote?
I don't think so, honestly. I don't make rash decisions when it comes time to vote. Sometimes I've been on the end of a 1-6. Sometimes it's 2-5. Sometimes it's 7-0 and it's a slam dunk. But I don't think I've ever voted where I've regretted my vote.
All right. Mr. Nelson, we stay with you for the closing statement. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
Great, thanks, Tom. I think what the voters need to look at here, and the businesses as well, that are able to vote for Ward 3, is the direction that Hastings is heading. Which way are we going? I believe we're going in the right direction. I think we're going up, and we have a lot of great things going on for us. We have the riverfront redevelopment that we just reinvested a lot of money in, a lot of time. It was a 3-year plan. It's beautiful now. We're going to come back and finish off that alleyway next year, and total money spent is going to be probably $4 to $5 million. That's a lot of money for this community. It looks great. When I was growing up in Hastings, the only thing you could do down at the river was throw rocks in, right? I mean, you remember that, right? I still see kids throwing rocks in it, but it's beautiful now. They can still play on the musical instruments down there. It looks great. So I think, look at the investment that we've made in our downtown and in other areas too. and determine if we're heading in the right direction. Keep that direction going. Re-elect Nelson, re-elect the experience. Thank you.
And now for you, Ms. Liefeld, please provide your closing statement. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
I am truly honored to have this opportunity to run for city council in my hometown. I'm not a politician. I am not a lifelong government employee. My concerns and fears are the same as yours, and I want what is best for all of us and what's best for our community. I have never been known to go into anything half-heartedly, and I can promise you this: I will give you my all, and you will always know where I stand. Again, look at my positive 3-point plan for Hastings. First, there's 2 equally important components of quality economic development. That's basic retention and attraction of businesses to the Hastings community. We need to do more than just answer the phone if it rings. We must be proactive to bring new businesses to our wonderful community. Second, the youth of Hastings are the future of Hastings. We must do whatever we can to advocate for strong families. With roots dating back to the 1850s, Hastings has an amazing historic character that few other cities possess. We all need to work together to keep Hastings beautiful. I want to thank each of you for giving us your valuable time tonight by being here and giving us the opportunity to talk to you. I want to thank Tom and the Hastings Community TV. I want to thank Christy and the Hastings Chamber, and I want to thank Tony. And I want to remind all of you of the most
Please
basic
wrap it
civil
up, Ms.
right,
Lynn.
and that is the right to vote. On Tuesday, November 8th, I would be honored if you would vote for me, Lisa Liefeld, for 3rd Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. How about our hand for candidates for Ward 3? All right. Again, these races will be on our YouTube channel, so if you'd like to watch any of this again or miss any of it, they will be available there. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, we'll have our candidates for our final ward of Ward 4 in Hastings. See you then. Hello again, Hastings, and anybody else joining us on TV, online, or on the radio. I'm Tom Wright, moderator for the Hastings Candidate Forum for 2016, and it is now our opportunity to hear from the candidates running for Ward 4 of the Hastings City Council. So please join me in welcoming them. There you go. To your left there is Ms. Dana Elling Schultz, incumbent City Council member, and her opponent to the right there is Mr. Trevor Lund. All right. Before we get started, for those just tuning in, I do want to go over the rules of play here. This is a forum, not a debate. The candidates will have 1 minute to answer their question, and they will own that minute and can use it as they wish. There will be no interruptions. If the other candidate has to respond to something, they said they must wait to do so during the next answer. The candidates were provided the questions 1 week in advance. The exception is the one question they will get to ask each other. And the audience will not be able to ask questions here, but of course, again, you'll be able to ask questions, as many questions as you like, out on the forum there. So with that said, let's get started, and we will start with Ms. Schultz. If you could please give us your opening statement. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Good evening. Thank you, Tom. Thanks to everyone who's helped put this forum together. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for voters. My name is Dana Elling Schultz. I have lived in Hastings for the past 30 years. I have lived in Ward 4 for the past 20. As of yesterday, I was married to my husband, Doug Schultz, for 31 years. We have raised our 2 daughters, Libby, 25, and Abby, 22, here in Hastings. We have been active community members, my family, my husband, since the day we came to town. I am a member of the Hastings Tennis League, Hastings Heart Restart, Black Dirt Theater contributor. I'm a member of St. Philip's Lutheran Church. And in terms of my experience with local government, I have been on the Planning Commission, the Parks Board, and I have obviously been on the Hastings City Council. I am experienced in getting things done. I have served the community not only as a council member, but on various activities. And currently, I'm Finance Committee Chair, a member of HEDRA. I'm on the Cable Board and on the Public Safety, Administration, and Utilities Committees.
Thank you. And Mr. Lund, your turn. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background
Thanks,
and
Tom.
experience.
Well, first, thank you again for having us here. And Dana, thank you for joining me up here. Like many, I grew up and graduated from Hastings, no surprise. As a student here, I was involved in a lot of different activities and sports and the arts. I was on the wrestling team. I was in choir, show choir, and in various clubs. Then I went on to college at St. Olaf. I graduated with a BA in economics and poli-sci. From there, I went on to graduate school, and I received my Master of Business Administration from St. Mary's University in the Twin Cities. Professionally, I have a variety of roles in business development and marketing, and am currently fortunate to work for the renewal division of Anderson Window Corporation as the product marketing manager there for them. As for family, I've been married to my wife and Hastings native, Heidi Youngren Lund, for 8 years, and we're blessed to have one 3-year-old boy who we are super excited to watch grow up in Hastings, our hometown.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Lund, for this next question. Please tell us, why are you running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
Sure. Well, everyone running in this election cares about Hastings. I'm no different. I'm running because this is my hometown. I chose to raise my family here. And the success of this community matters to me. I appreciate the hard work that Dana and the current council has done for the city. However, we simply have not had many options in recent elections. We need choice. We need competition. We need different opinions and new perspectives. And so I've stepped up this time to give the voters an alternative. As far as leadership is concerned, over the years I've been fortunate to have been a department manager as well as a leader of groups and committees, rather. And as a leader, I know not only to listen, but to ask good questions and then make good decisions. I may not have a ton of experience. I don't have any experience on the council, unlike my opponent. But I do have the skill set to be effective and the passion to be dedicated. Thank you.
Thank you. And to you, Ms. Schultz, please tell us, why are you running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
I'd like to thank Trevor for acknowledging that I have the experience, which is part of the reason I'm running for re-election. I want to continue my service as we move forward at a very exciting time here in Hastings. Between 2009 and 2012, we faced serious budget constraints, and we were only able to maintain the status quo. As the economy has grown, we've been able to invest in our riverfront. Our parks provided opportunities for business and housing growth to bring more families to Hastings. I want to continue on that effort. I have the leadership, communication, and collaboration skills that it takes to navigate a council, a city staff, and with other elected officials in our state to make Hastings work, to make our local government work, and to work for the best interests of all of our residents. I can hit the ground running on day one. I've never stopped running. I go, and everyone knows I've got the energy and passion to make things work in Hastings. I take a common sense and a fair-minded approach to issues. I know how to collaborate, I do my homework, and I ask the tough questions to make sure that the decisions we make benefit all of Hastings.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Ms. Schultz, for this next one. What is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by local government, if at all?
Hastings has a vibrancy that I haven't seen since before the Great Recession. But I think our economy is strong. However, we need to take a three-pronged approach in order for us to move forward with our city. And the first one is to continue our business incentives that has helped develop such things as the Hudson Building, the River Lofts that brought Cranky Ape, Carlson Capital Management, Breakaway Arts. We helped them come to our city and to build here. And now the second thing is I want to use HEDRA, the Economic Development Commission or Authority, to focus on bringing a high-tech business park to our town, preferably on the west side, which is, I think, where we need to do some of that business development, and to collaborate with business and community groups on an update of Vermillion Street. And I know it's been said before, but it was actually my idea. And thirdly, we need to promote Hastings and use our tourism board. We spend
Please wrap it
about
up, Ms. Schultz.
$55,000 a year on the tourism board, which works through the chamber. I'll talk more about this in my next question.
Thank you. And back to you, Mr. Lund. What is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by the local government, if at all?
Thank you. Well, there are certainly opportunities for improvement here. If we want to continue to improve as a city, we need to strengthen the business environment. Plain and simple. Stronger business can ease the tax burden on everyone, businesses and citizens, increase the tax base, and create job opportunities which can bring families here, people my age with kids that can repopulate the schools, and other things that come from that are all positive, and it builds on our long-term viability. We need to put more focus and resources towards economic development, more than we have now. We can improve the communication with our current businesses and find new ways for them to survive and grow. And then we should also be providing resources to the city to be more proactive in finding outside businesses to come into Hastings to relocate or expand. I'd like to also look into business and technology incubator, like has been done in the Twin Cities with COCO and UEL, are great ways to bring startup businesses to town. As far as the technology park on the west side, and I know I'm running low on time here, but I think it has some merit. But I think we also have a lot of facilities that are going empty right now, and we should work on what we have before we break new ground.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Lund, on this next question.
Sure.
What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
Sure. Well, specifically in Ward 4, have had the opportunity to meet with people as I go around the ward. Two issues come up most often. One is we need more restaurants. We need more retail. We need more things to do in town. Okay, that's one thing. And then the other thing is they don't always feel as though their interests are represented. And so as far as retail and so forth, we do need to work harder to support what we have here now. And more will come as we build a stronger business base. With value-add business comes employment. With employment comes residency, and which will all create the demand that is needed to support more of those things in town. Secondly, providing new communication and involvement opportunities to wards can give people other outlets for understanding what's going on, why decisions were made, and easier ways to voice their opinions. A comment was made that, why wasn't somebody showing up to council meetings? You don't have to sit in here to be involved. You can watch online. We have a lot of opportunities in that regard. Not everybody is able to come here every time, and that doesn't mean that you're not involved. Thank you.
Thank you. And to you, Ms. Schultz, what ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
Tourism. We spend $55,000 a year approximately with the tourism board, that is with the chamber, and I think we need to continue that promotion and work harder. There are 3 spots open right now on that board that need to be filled. I'd like to see that to be public members, to have more discussion and do more promotion of our community outside of Hastings, to get folks to come down, because I think once you bring someone here, they will stay. They will make the decision. We have lots of opportunities to make families want to be here, to make business want to be here. The other thing, a couple of things I've heard at the doors, we have traffic issues in our neighborhoods. Trevor, one of the streets you live on, 36th Street, someone who lives just down the street from you talked to me about it just on Sunday. We've got to work on that, and that is going to take a neighborhood meeting, work with operations committee, and we've got to figure out how to lower some of those speeds. And finally, the youth crime issue, drugs, community service officer is what we need to work with our agencies, with our school district, with our county drug task force, and in that way I think we can solve that problem or begin to solve that serious problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have reached the point where you are going to be able to ask a question to each other, and Ms. Schultz, you'll be the one to answer first. Again, just for our audience, for those tuning in, the parameters for this question were given in a nutshell, nothing personal, and must be understood by the general public, and they were submitted beforehand to be vetted, so we shouldn't be surprised here. And so with that said, we can now hear the question that Mr. Lund here has for Ms. Schultz.
All right, you ready for a tough one?
Those
Hopefully.
were tough?
Hopefully it's not too bad. In a recent KDWA interview, you referenced a study regarding water and sewer access charges. In that interview, you stated that Hastings is not over the top as compared to other cities for such charges. However, business owners in town consistently maintain that it is challenging to do business in Hastings, and that these fees, among other reasons, are stifling the success and even driving out local businesses. So, what do you plan to do differently in the next 4 years to support our current businesses in town going forward?
Thank you. I think I've outlined some of that already with some of the options I think we have available. I would like to have us start a program called Invest Hastings that would help us use our HEDRA authority. We have a levy authority with that. We have about $350,000 a year that we use, and I think we should move that forward with like our commercial business loan amount has been expended for the year. So we need to beef that up. And as far as the SAC and WAC fees are concerned, I would consider us making some changes in that, and we'll be discussing the rate study on Monday night at a Finance Committee meeting. So you could come and listen to us talk about that. But I think we have to think carefully. We do need to remember that the SAC and WAC fees were put in place to help us maintain clean drinking water supply, and that is very, very important. So I think we've got some options.
Please wrap it up.
And that would be my plan for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And now for the closing statements. I'm sorry.
I shouldn't have said anything.
You shouldn't have said anything. You screwed up there,
It's
Mr.
like the
Lund.
kid that said you forgot to give homework, right?
You screwed up.
Okay.
Ms. Schultz, I apologize. It is now your opportunity to ask a question to Mr. Lund.
I seem to remember that when this all came about, at first they didn't even put Ward 4 on as having to have the forum, so I thought I was going to be, off scot-free. Trevor, name 2 positive things the City Council has accomplished the last 4 years that you support, and explain how you would build on one of those accomplishments.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I will answer that, okay? But I would like to say that thank you for what I actually believe has been a very positive campaign. We are, in 2016, facing, at the national level, disgusting negative stuff. And I think it's just so incredible that we have 8 people running for local elections, and also that we have remained positive through the whole time. So thank you very much. I think that's great. You can applaud afterwards. But we have 2 people working really hard here and running positive campaigns. So 2 things. I actually did leave Hastings for a job for a while. I lived in Maple Grove. We owned a home up there. When we had our son, we decided to move back to town. One of the things that really encouraged that decision was the river efforts that we've done downtown. Not all of it has been positive, but I think overall it was a very good effort, and I applaud you for that. And also, I think the Hudson building needed something, and I'm really appreciative that you've made a decision that I think will be in the benefit of the town going forward. So those are 2 things that was really easy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both. And Mr.
sorry.
Lund, your turn for the closing statement here. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
All right. First of all, I must have missed the second part of a question that I didn't hear, so I will get to that. Maybe post it publicly. So I apologize if I missed something. I didn't intend to do that. Thank you again for the opportunity tonight. It's great to see everybody here, and hopefully a bunch of people are watching too. If you'd like to connect with me and learn more, I encourage you to go to my Facebook page. I have a website too, but it's really confusing URL, so we'll just do Facebook. It's vote for the number 4 Trevor Lund, no spaces. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions that you have for me. Okay, so when you go to the polls, please do. Local elections are important. Not a lot of votes in each ward, so each vote is important. I ask that you vote for me, not because the incumbent is running for her 5th term, okay? Vote for me because you believe that I have the character and the ability and the drive to work hard for you in this community. I genuinely am excited for this opportunity, and I thank you for your consideration.
Ms. Schultz, your turn for a closing statement. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters, and in your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
Serving on the Hastings City Council has been one of the greatest opportunities of my life, and I thank you all for the honor of being able to serve you. I'm asking for your support because I have the energy, the expertise, the passion, and the vision to continue that service to Hastings. I pledge that I will put the needs of our community and my neighbors ahead of my own. I always have, and I always will. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 8th so we can build on our successes and move Hastings forward. If you have any questions of me, any comments, anything you would like to tell me, you can reach me at danaelling@hotmail.com. That is Dana with 2 N's. My Facebook page is facebook.com, Citizens for Dana. Again, that's with 2 N's. Or you can always call me at 438-3878. Hastings is a tremendous gem, and I am very, very proud to call this my home. Let's not just imagine a better Hastings. Let's work together to get things done. Thank you very, very much for your time and attention tonight. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you both. Again, our candidates for Ward 4, incumbent Dana Elling Schultz, and our opponent, Trevor Lund. How about a hand for our candidates? All right, and with that done, we will take another 5-minute break, and when we come back, we are going to meet and hear from the candidates running to represent District 54 in the State House. So we'll be back in 5 minutes and hear from them. Thank you. Hello, Hastings, and the rest of you joining us for this candidates forum. I'm Tom Wright, the moderator, having the honor and privilege of doing so here tonight. And now we are going to hear from our candidates running for the district to represent District 54 in the House of Representatives up in St. Paul for the Minnesota State House of Representatives. So please join me in welcoming our 2 candidates, Mr. Tony Juergens and Mr. Don Slayton.
Thank you.
I will note that neither candidate is the incumbent. The incumbent has decided to not seek re-election, so this race is wide open. Before we get started, gentlemen, I just want to go over the rules of play here for those maybe just tuning in, and a quick reminder for yourselves. This is a forum, not a debate. The candidates will each have 1 minute to answer the question. They will own that minute and can use it as they wish. There will be no interruptions. If the other candidate has to respond to something said, they must wait to do so during their next answer. The candidates were provided the questions 1 week in advance. And the exception, of course, is the one question they will get to ask each other. The audience will not be able to ask questions, but of course are welcome to do so afterwards. All right, so with that said, we're going to start with you, Mr. Tony Juergens, on the left here with your opening statement. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Thank you. First, I want to offer my condolences to Mr. Slayton on the loss of his father. There's never a good time to lose a loved one, and I know with the pressures of the final weeks of the campaign, it comes at an especially difficult time, and I respect you for being here tonight. Next, I'd like to thank the Hastings Chamber of Commerce and the Hastings Community TV for hosting this event, as well as those of you in the audience here tonight or watching on TV or online. I've lived in this district for almost 24 years. I've worked hard to make Cottage Grove and Hastings stronger by volunteering for several boards and commissions, often in a leadership role. My wife Dawn and I have 2 daughters who attended kindergarten through 8th grade at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton here in Hastings, and then went on to graduate from Hastings High School. My daughter Tori is in the audience with us tonight. I've been active in St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church and in the Hastings Knights of Columbus. As an independent insurance agent, I have many customers who live here in Hastings. I've got a business Bachelor of Science degree from Southwest Minnesota State University. I want to be your state representative so I can represent you, represent your families, and represent your businesses in the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to you, Mr. Slayton. For your opening statement, please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening. My name is Don Slayton. I thank all of you for coming out tonight and those watching at home. I am a Navy veteran with service on a nuclear fast attack submarine off the coast of Vietnam. I'm a father, a grandfather, and spent years coaching various youth teams. I have lived in the district for 40 years, and during that time have volunteered for numerous community groups. I have spent my life in service to my country and my community. As your representative, I would be honored to continue that commitment for working families, strengthening our schools, protecting our waters, and implementing funding to fix our roads and bridges. I want an economy that works for all Minnesotans. Those of us who work hard to make a living should be able to make a good life for our families. Political gridlock serves no one and irritates everyone. Most people are less interested in politics than the policies that affect them. The far left and the far right have pulled the center so far apart they can't meet in the middle. We need to find that middle ground to achieve the greater good for our children, our families, our communities, and our state. Thank you.
All right, and we'll stay with you, Mr. Slayton, for this next question. Please tell us why are you running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit our district if elected?
Okay, thank you. I want to be responsive to the needs of our communities, not simply following someone else's agenda. I was very disappointed when our previous representative did not carry the Hastings Bridge bill forward. The representative from Cottage Grove had to do it. The old bridge was rated unsafe, and the new bridge has spurred riverfront development. Not only was the bridge important for Hastings, but it meets the transportation needs of Afton, Cottage Grove, Denmark Township, and Ninninger. I've spent the last 6 months knocking on doors to learn what matters most to the citizens of our communities. Last Sunday, I purchased my 4th set of shoes. One of the biggest concerns I heard was the lack of cooperation causing gridlock in Minnesota's government. I have experience serving on the Washington County Planning Commission, the Denmark Township Board of Supervisors, and currently serve on the Hastings Planning Commission. For 30 years, I worked as shop foreman at the Seneca Wastewater Treatment Plant in Eagan.
Please wrap it up, Mr. Slayton.
I chaired the Plant Safety Committee. I learned how to negotiate and find a compromise that works for everyone. As your representative, I will be a tireless advocate for our community. My background in leadership and my experience in this district will help me work across party lines to find compromise that supports the need of our communities.
All right, thank you, Mr. Juergens. Your turn on this one. Please tell us why are you running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that will benefit our district if elected?
First of all, this is the first office of at any level that I've ever run for. I'm not an experienced politician. What I've done for many years is volunteer in my communities. Currently in Cottage Grove, I'm on the Economic Development Authority. I chair the Public Services Commission. I'm on the Washington County Library Board. I'm on the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. And as I mentioned here in Hastings, I'm on the Finance Council at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church, and I'm the Grand Knight of the local Hastings Knights of Columbus. Everything that I've done has always been to make the communities that I'm involved with stronger. I do it because I enjoy it. I do it because I like the diversity of the people that I'm working with and the diversity of the issues that we're dealing with. And I want to take that to the next level. I want to take that to St. Paul and represent you and the citizens of District 54B. I will represent the constituents, not my party, when I get to St. Paul.
Thank you. And now we're going to talk about the budget. And we're going to stay with you, Mr. Juergens, on this one. When looking at the state budget, what items do you feel should receive less funding, if any? And on the flip side, what items do you feel should receive more funding, if any?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have given raises to commissioners who were already in the job. Some of them received raises of over $30,000. And then I wouldn't turn around and give those same commissioners a severance package when they resign. But the bigger ticket item is MNsure. The state has spent about $400 million on MNsure. That's something that we need to take a look at. We're going to be talking about healthcare and healthcare issues a little bit more throughout the next couple of questions, so I don't need to go into a lot of details with that. But what we're doing now is basically the MNsure program is duplicating efforts at the national level with part of the ACA. As far as where we need to spend more money, if we hadn't spent that $400 million, maybe we could be putting that towards education. Maybe we could be putting that towards roads and bridges. And so we'll talk a little bit more about healthcare as we go.
Thank you. And Mr. Slayton, your turn on this one. Okay. When looking at the state's budget, what items do you feel should receive less funding, if any? And on the flip side, what items do you feel should receive more funding, if any?
Okay. To help state finances, we need to increase our debt payments to save money on interest payments. As anyone with a credit card knows, it doesn't make sense to pay for something twice. We need dedicated funding for our roads, bridges, sewer, and water plants. Repairing our infrastructure will put people to work. They will then pay taxes and contribute to our local economy. We should continue to phase out subsidies for ethanol, which have caused a rapid rise in nitrates in our local drinking waters. Over the last 10 years, nitrate levels in our district have increased from 10 parts per million to 35 parts per million in areas of Cottage Grove, and over 40 parts per million in areas of Hastings. We need to continue to find ways to clean up the Jordan Aquifer and still support our family farms.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Slayton, on this next question on healthcare and addressing healthcare costs. There has been a rising concern for the rising cost of healthcare for both individuals and businesses. How do you propose the state legislature should address this concern for Minnesotans and Minnesota businesses?
Okay. Affordable health care is a must for Minnesota families. No family should be paying more than 10% of their income toward health insurance. Most plan premiums and deductibles are simply unaffordable. The rising cost of pharmaceuticals are unaffordable due to the volatility of the small market of those using MNsure. It does not serve the needs of our employers or our workers in its current form. We need to demand an audit of the insurance companies which do business within Minnesota. Costs for the same service can vary widely across the state and within different age groups. Without knowing what we are paying for, how can we know if we are making a good investment? The rising costs for prescriptions, such as insulin and the EpiPen, are scandalous. Without cost transparency, prices skyrocket within the few companies approved to make each drug. Even if we don't adopt a single-payer market like Canada, we deserve to know what we are paying for.
Please wrap it up,
I will
Mr.
fight
Slayton.
for transparency. I will fight to provide options that work for working families.
Thank you. And to you, Mr. Juergens, there's been a rising concern for the rising cost of health care for both individuals and businesses. How do you propose the state legislature should address this concern for Minnesotans and Minnesota businesses?
There is a rising concern, and there should be. With the last 3 years, the rates for individual plans have gone up 20, 30, 40, sometimes almost 60% per year. Blue Cross Blue Shield recently exited the individual plan, the individual health insurance market, leaving 107,000 Minnesotans having to find health care coverage somewhere else. And some of the other companies that are in that market are putting caps on new business. So if you're one of the 107,000 Minnesotans that are affected, and you don't get into one of the new plans before they hit their cap, you have less choice. You have fewer companies to choose from. We all know what happens when you have less choice and fewer choices, the price goes up. It's just a part of economics. what we need to do with is begin to. Oh, I'm almost out of time already. And that just right now, the Senate Democrats have asked the governor to call a special session, and so if they don't get started when I get into the legislature, that's going to be one of the very first things, the biggest topics that we need to address is the rising cost of health care.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Nelson, on this next one on public education. What is your assessment of the state of public education in Minnesota? What actions by the legislature, if any, do you feel would improve it?
Mr. Nelson or Mr. Jurgens? Do you want me to?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Jurgens. I'm sorry. I'm still, I guess, apparently on Ward
Tony,
3.
Could you come up?
Yeah, apparently. Getting the Tonys mixed up here. I apologize.
Very
Mr.
good.
Jurgens.
Thank
There
you.
we
I
go.
appreciate that. Well, there's a lot of different avenues that you could take when you talk about public education. So let me just focus on one of the areas, and that is with Governor Dayton's plan to require all-day pre-K education. I've toured daycares here in Hastings. My daughter Tori works at daycare here in Hastings, and I've met with the superintendent of both 833 in Cottage Grove and Superintendent Collins here in Hastings, as well as the entire school board. And what they've all told me is that they don't want that to be mandatory, and I agree with them. People have the options right now to educate the pre-K by sending them to a daycare center. Some people have that covered through their, maybe have a grandparent at home or a parent that stays at home. I think that needs to be available to everybody, and we need to provide scholarships for those that need help to pay for it, but it should not be mandatory. I think that the locales in a lot of places like Robin's Nest here in Hastings can take care of that already and without having it be mandatory to the school districts.
Thank you, Mr. Jurgens. And back to you, Mr. Slayton. On public education, your turn on this one. What is your assessment of the state of public education in Minnesota? And what actions by the legislature, if any, do you feel would improve it?
We have good schools in Minnesota. However, in the past, the legislature held back education funding to make up for state deficits. Robbing Peter to pay Paul is never a good idea. School referendums were needed to make up the missing funds. This greatly increased property taxes. We need to give every child the best start we can. Some communities have a large mix of business and homes, and some have only a small mix. This causes unequal funding streams. The state could play a role in equalizing school revenues so all children can get a good start at a good school. How do we pay for it? Governor Plenty twice vetoed a health insurance bill which would have allowed districts to participate in statewide bidding for health insurance. This left districts to find insurance for themselves. Cooperating in these supergroups would decrease district expenditures and save education dollars. Education is a concern for everyone. Thriving schools are related to higher real estate values, higher medium income, and greater life expectancies.
Please wrap it up, Mr.
I believe
Slayton.
we are duty-bound to provide a good education for the next generation. Education is how we guarantee our kids the best start and opportunities for the future.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Slayton, on this next one. If elected, what is your top item of legislation you plan to focus on and why?
Big question. There are so many issues that need to be addressed: healthcare, education, water quality, infrastructure. The House must work together, step by step, to address the issues affecting our life. For example, we know we have a problem in this area with chlorofluorocarbons and nitrates in the water. It is unconscionable that residents in part of our district need to use bottled water. Monday, I spoke to a Cottage Grove mother with 2 children under the age of 5. She said they use only bottled water because they do not trust that drinking water is safe. This concern has been echoed many times at many doors. Every resident deserves the security of knowing their water is safe. For our neighbors like this mom, we must do better job of getting the facts out there. Our city water is safe for those that don't yet have the security of city water. We must keep fighting for clean, safe drinking water. But just saying it is safe doesn't relieve the burden. This requires trust that can only be gained with openness. Whatever the issue, my priority will always be listening to you and giving you an honest answer.
Please
I will
wrap it
work
up, Mr.
hard
Nelson.
to get things done for our district through advocacy and compromise.
Thank you, Mr. Slayton. And now to you, Mr. Jurgens. If elected, what is your top item of legislation do you plan to focus on and why?
Mr. Slayton's right. There are a number of issues that we could talk about tonight. Transportation is one of them. We need to obviously take care of our infrastructure, roads and bridges. But the biggest issue, we've already talked about it, and that is the cost of health care. When MNsure was developed, it was done so without one Republican vote. It was all done, passed through the House and the Senate with all Democrats. The solution to the problem is going to be a bipartisan solution. We're going to need to work together on both sides of the aisle. I have experience doing that on the boards and commissions that I'm on. People don't know if I'm a Democrat or Republican until I went out to run for this office. And that's the kind of bipartisanship that it's going to take to solve a big problem like the cost of health care in the state of Minnesota.
All right. That brings us to the question the moment where you guys get to ask each other a question. And the first to ask their question will be Mr. Slayton to you, Mr. Jurgens. And for the audience, again, the parameters for this were, in a nutshell, basically nothing personal and something that could be understood by the general public. And these have been submitted in advance and have been vetted for, so we shouldn't have any surprises here tonight. And so with that said, now, Mr. Slayton, could you please ask your question to Mr. Jurgens?
Thank you. Mr. Jurgens, do you support the minimum prevailing wage policy? Why or why not?
Actually, I do. I do support the prevailing wage policy, and the biggest reason is I don't want state companies from out of state to come into Minnesota and bid on jobs and take the jobs away from Minnesotans. I have been endorsed by some of the trade unions, the carpenters, and the local 49ers, and part of the reason I believe that they gave me their endorsement was my views on prevailing wage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And your turn, Mr. Jurgens. You may now ask your question to Mr. Slayton.
And this one, I have to put my glasses on to read because we were told that it has to be the exact question that was approved. Mr. Slayton, I've had friends tell me that when you come to their door, you implied that since I don't live in Hastings, I'm not as qualified as you to represent Hastings or to be as familiar with Hastings issues. As you know, I'm active in C's Church here in Hastings. My kids attended school here and graduated from Hastings High School, and I'm involved with the Hastings Knights of Columbus. What specific experience in Cottage Grove do you have that qualifies you to represent that part of District 54B?
Thank you. I've been very active with the Cottage Grove City Council. I know all the members up there personally and have worked directly with them on many issues. Our district is not just Hastings, Cottage Grove. It is Denmark, Afton, and Ninninger. I've been on the town board of Denmark Township. I've worked hand in hand with just about every person who's ever been on the city council in Afton for the last 30 years. My wife was actually the city clerk of Afton. So that really helped to do that. So I know more than just Hastings. It's a district-wide thing that I have been working on. So I know every city that's out there.
All right, and that brings us to our closing statement, and we stay with you, Mr. Slayton, for the first to respond to this one. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
Okay, thank you, Don. I want to thank Hastings Cable TV. I also want to thank those who are here tonight and those who are watching on TV. I'm sure you have many demands on your time. That you choose to spend it here shows you care about our community. Voting is the expression of our hopes for our future together. Voting is an act of trust between a voter and a candidate. I honor that trust and will work hard to live up to your hopes. If elected, I will be responsive to the concerns of our communities. I will make sure all of you know my telephone number and email so you can let me know what is happening in your corner of the district or voice your opinion. I will always give you an honest answer, not a party line. I will strive to find the compromises needed to get work done in the House, on time and on budget. I can work across the aisle because I believe most people, whatever their party affiliation, want the best for our state. We may have different ideas on how to get there, but talking and working together toward common goals is the only way to find common sense solutions to our problems.
Please wrap it up.
I ask for the opportunity to move Minnesota forward. I ask for your vote this November.
Thank you, Mr. Slayton. And Mr. Jurgens, your turn for this. Please address the voters tonight. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank the Hastings Chamber of Commerce and the Hastings Community Television for hosting this event in this beautiful historic building. I want to thank those here tonight and those watching on TV and on the internet. And I want to thank Don for being here under difficult personal circumstances. I'm uniquely qualified to represent all of District 54B because of my strong ties to the two main population centers of Cottage Grove and Hastings. And also with my endorsements from the Pioneer Press yesterday, the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, the National Federation of Independent Business, as well as some of the trade unions that I mentioned before, with the Carpenters Union and the Operating Engineers Local 49, and the endorsement by the Minnesota Farm Bureau. I work with others from all walks of life to produce results regardless of political party. I have friends and family on both sides of the aisle, so I'm accustomed to listening to different opinions when making decisions. When I'm in the legislature, I'll work for you, not my party. I'm Tony Jurgens, and I'd be proud to earn your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you both. Again, Mr. Jurgens and Mr. Slayton running for state representative to represent District 54 in the House of Representatives.
And one thing we would like to announce here, we do have a GOP tracker in the back tonight that neither of us have anything to do with. He's here to make me look bad.
Well, with that, let's keep the applause to you guys then. All right. We have one more race coming up here. We're going to meet and hear from the candidates running to represent District 54 in the state Senate. So we'll take another 5-minute break, and we'll have our final forum after that. Thank you. Hello again, Hastings, and the rest of you joining us here for this forum. I'm Tom Wright, the moderator with Hastings Community TV, and we now bring you the final mini forum of the forum, you could say, the candidates running to represent District 54 in the Minnesota State Senate. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Leilani Homestead and Mr. Dan Schoen. I will note that neither candidate is an incumbent. The incumbent, again, in this race has also chosen to not file for re-election. So, with that said, before we hear from our candidates, again, the ground rules. We want to lay those out for any of you that just might be watching this particular race or tuning in just now. This is a forum, not a debate. The candidates will have 1 minute to answer the question. They will own that minute, though, and can use it as they wish. There will be no interruptions. If the other candidate has to respond to something said, they must wait to do so during their next answer. The candidates were provided the questions 1 week in advance. The exception is the one question they will get to ask each other. And the audience will not be allowed to ask questions, but may do so afterwards. So with all that said, let's start with you, Ms. Homestead, and with your opening statement. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Okay. Hello, I am Leilani Homestead, Senate District 54's Republican candidate for Minnesota State Senate. I graduated from Buena Vista College in Storm Lake, Iowa, with a degree in social work. My father honorably served our nation for 43 years full-time in the military and retired to be a full-time farmer. My mother also served as a master's RN at the Des Moines VA and was a Federal Employee of the Year for enhancing a program for veterans. I have lived in Minnesota for 28 years, with 23 of those years being in Cottage Grove with my family. I've been fortunate enough to have owned my own child care business for 17 years. 11 years prior to my own childcare business, I worked in the social work field in various situations. My volunteer experiences have been around my children's activities. For the past 12 years, I have been involved with American Heritage Girls, currently serving as a vice coordinator and a guide for the Allegiant Honor Guard. We have performed flag ceremonies for the Minnesota 9/11 ceremony, the Minnesota Peace Officers Memorial, and several other community events throughout the Twin Cities. I have also been a softball coach with the Cottage Grove Athletic Association as well.
Thank you. And Mr. Schoen, your turn for your opening statement. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you to the Chamber and the entire community of Hastings, more importantly. My name is Dan Schoen. I'm the current state representative for 54A. I live up in St. Paul Park with my two kids, Addie and Wyatt. They're 10 and 7 and go to school up in Cottage Grove in District 833. I've been a police officer for the last 15 years in Cottage Grove and served several assignments there. Working narcotics and violent crime detective, on the SWAT team as a hostage and crisis negotiator, worked as a business liaison officer, done other training roles as well. It has been an honor to serve my community in multiple roles, and so humbling to be elected for my second term in the last session. I also want to say how appreciative I am to Senator Sieben for her service to the community. I want to say that to Representative McNamara too. On your way out, we don't always agree on everything, but it was been very decent to work with you, and I thank you for all the help that you've given me as well too.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Schoen, for this next one. Please tell us, why are you running, and what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit our district if elected?
Well, thanks. You know, one of the reasons I'm running, I think, is just about any community or anybody who looks in their family, is my two kids. And then, you know, I look back even at my mother and my parents. And when I look back, when I came to Cottage Grove, it was right after September 11th, 2001. And we listed our house for sale and had the realtors in the house when the planes struck the towers, and we're standing there looking at the television, and never showed that house or sold that house until February of 2002. There were times that I was sleeping in my car in the parking lot and then at the fire station in Cottage Grove, and members of the community came and brought me food when I was sleeping there, and I knew I was home. I don't sometimes feel like I could ever repay that enough to the people that I serve and my neighbors. But more importantly, my experiences working in law enforcement and in our community civic groups as the St. Paul Park, Newport Lions, and other groups, you know, just working together with people from all backgrounds. I've had the honor to have that experience and the opportunity to do that and be successful at it.
Thank you. And back to you, Ms. Homestead. Tell us, why are you running, and what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit our district if elected?
Thank you. I am running for the Senate seat as I feel our district and state needs a fresh voice representing people. Bad government policies need to stop. The high tax burden is forcing tough decisions on people and on businesses. In 2015, the New York Times reported that the middle class is shrinking as incomes have fallen. With incomes falling and taxes increasing, that math doesn't add up in people's favor. This is a time to change the equation. It's time to strip down our government. This is about people's freedom, not about free stuff. Running a government is like running a business. For a business to succeed, they need to manage a budget. A business could keep raising prices, but the consumer would stop going. With government, it keeps raising our prices, and as a consumer, our way to make change is by voting. Like families, government should spend within their means without coming to families as a debit card taking our family's budget. My leadership skills, as I'm considered a people-oriented person, I have great organizational skills, and I have a fearlessness to take on challenges.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Ms. Homestead, for this next one on the budget. When looking at the state budget, what items do you feel should receive less funding, if any? And on the flip side, what items do you feel should receive more funding, if any?
When looking at the state budget, it's my belief that the family budget should come first. Money that is spent in the state needs to be spent for the public good and not just for a few people or special interest. I believe that government has a role in our roads and bridges to construct, improve, and maintain. The light rail system that seems to be the top topic and it stopped the bonding bill in the last session, is something that is not for the public good. The billions of dollars of upfront cost and the ongoing operational costs are nothing but an unsustainable program the vast majority of Minnesotans don't want. As a state, we need to continue to construct, improve, and maintain our roads and bridges. The new bridge here in Hastings is a safe and a nice amenity to the citizens and those who come to visit the city and the surrounding areas. Roads and bridges are for the public good. Roads and bridges are more user-friendly to a greater number of people as well. Roads is how we get supplies to our stores and how emergency vehicles get to where they need to go. I haven't tried to go shopping for groceries using the light rail system, but I don't think it'd be very user-friendly.
All right. And we'll bring it back to you, Mr. Schoen, for this on the budget. When looking at the state budget, what items do you feel which should receive less funding, if any? And on the flip side, what items do you feel should receive more funding, if any?
Thank you. Well, I can give you a couple examples right off the bat. The Delano community in the western metro received $35,000 for a parade from the state of Minnesota. Think about that, a parade. Eden Prairie Schools got $500,000 for college prep. Not one other single school in the district in the state of Minnesota got that. How about our students in Hastings or District 833? They didn't get that. How about we eliminate tax loopholes allowing corporations to harbor money and not pay millions of dollars in taxes, further burdening the income tax burden on folks like you and me. Severance packages for former commissioners are certainly an issue, and they shouldn't have been paid. But the one thing I will say is that that bridge over here is no amenity. It's a must. And if we're going to improve commerce, transportation is going to be the biggest key. And if we're going to grow the industrial park in Cottage Grove, we're going to grow the industrial park and bring jobs into Hastings, we need a solid transportation infrastructure to do that. And that's not an amenity.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Shaw, on this next one on healthcare and addressing healthcare costs. There has been a rising concern for the rising cost of healthcare for both individuals and businesses. How do you propose the state legislature should address this concern for Minnesotans and Minnesota businesses?
Well, I'll look back to 2001 when I started with the city of Cottage Grove, and my health insurance costs have gone up ever since. And so it hasn't just been since the Affordable Care Act, but I think what the question really dials back down into, most people want to talk about MNsure, and I think what's important to remember is that MNsure is one piece that the state of Minnesota enacted from the federal legislation, the Affordable Care Act, which gave us the lowest insurance rates in the country. But what they are today still is not acceptable. There is no question about that. We've watched Congress be completely deadlocked and gridlocked and do nothing about this but vote to repeal it. If we would end up, we could have ended up like Wisconsin if we wanted to take the approach of saying, well, we're not going to do it, but then we would have had one of the highest insurance rates in the country right off the get-go, and we chose to protect Minnesotans as best we could under the plan that was given to us. Listen, we need to provide immediate relief to Minnesotans, and the DFL has made some proposals. We need to audit the HMOs for excessive profits. That was supposed to be done in 2012, and it's never been done. Now, there's a lot of things that we could talk about. We have some of the highest net worth of insurance companies in the world. They have, or in the country, they have billions of dollars in
Please
reserves.
wrap it up, Mr. Shaw.
But there's a lot that we could do, and a lot of it stems back from we're putting people over profit, or profit over people.
And back to you with this one, Ms. Homestead, addressing healthcare costs. There has been a rising concern for the rising cost of healthcare for both individuals and businesses. How do you propose the state legislature should address this concern for Minnesotans and Minnesota businesses?
I don't believe that MNsure or the Affordable Care Act is working, and Governor Dayton would agree with me. He just recently announced that it's not affordable. With the recent announcement that the feds are proposing rewarding doctors and clinics by paying them more money because they ration care, that MNsure has had a federal audit which reported that MNsure is not protecting the private information of people who use the insurance exchange, with insurance companies leaving and those staying narrowing their coverage area and putting caps on the number of people they will insure. We don't need the candidates or the governor to tell us that this isn't working. Our budgets will tell you that it's not working. This program is failing to provide affordable health care, and greater access to services. The federal government just wants this program to work no matter what the cost is to taxpayers. And they are now proposing bailing out insurance companies with taxpayer dollars. This will once again raise our costs for insurance. I support bringing more options for insurance, lowering the health care mandates, pregnancy, chemical dependency are some of those mandates, so that we
Please
can
wrap
build
it
a
up.
plan that will meet individuals' needs and thus lower the cost of insurance. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Ms. Homestead, for this next one on public education. What is your assessment of the state of public education in Minnesota? What actions by the legislature, if any, do you feel would improve it?
Minnesotans have had pride in our education system. I would like to continue to see that pride remain. I think there's always room for improvements with our children and their education. I believe we need to get back to the focus of increasing the intelligence of our children. I see our schools becoming more of social service agencies than a place of education. We are spending more money than ever on the education system, and it hasn't improved what the children are learning, just the buildings that hold the children. I think as a state we need to re-examine what constitutes a good education and give parents more choices, not just between schools, but also in the methods of learning. I would like to start with school choice. What this means to me is having alternate ways to use public funds for education. This would include public, charter, private, and homeschools. The duty of the legislator is to establish a general, uniform, and efficient system in the public schools. Not all children have the same learning styles or gifts. All schools have the same graduation standards and standardized testing requirements. School choice would give parents the freedom to choose what is best for their child. School choice would provide tightened budgets, improve education results, while freeing up teachers to teach with methods that
Please.
work for them.
All right. Thank you. And back to you, Mr. Schoen, on public education. What is your assessment of the state of public education in Minnesota, and what actions by the legislature, if any, do you feel would improve it?
Well, I think there's a lot of things to talk about just in that topic alone, but I'm going to go about talk about the funding mechanism. Right now, communities like Hastings School District, District 833, and all over the state, folks are voting themselves local property tax increases because the state funding hasn't kept up. It used to be a day you didn't have to. There's pre-Jesse Ventura is really when we used to get more general fund money. And the reality is that the income tax and other taxes that supply the general fund are a fairer way to fund education, because if you lose your job, your income tax goes down, but your property tax doesn't. When an 84-year-old widow calls me and says, "Dan, I want to support the tax or the levy increase, but I don't think I can afford another $200 on my fixed income," it's hard to argue with her. And so that's the number one issue. And I'll tell you, you talk about school choice. If you want to ruin a school budget, a public school budget, you take away the tax dollars that are supposed to be funding our students in our public schools and give it to private schools, it's really going to throw the budget for our schools out of whack even further. So we have to be very careful around that topic.
All right, and you will stay with this next one on Mr. Schoen here. If elected, what is your top item of legislation you plan to focus on, and why?
Well, for me, I work a lot in the public safety realm and healthcare realm. Things like the Toxic Free Kids Act to make sure that we could work on that kids didn't have cancer-causing agents in their toys or in their food packaging, and that's met a lot of resistance. I work on things like post-traumatic stress disorder, crime victims, really a lot of things around victims of sexual assault and domestic assault. And what I think the most important thing is listening to your constituents, because there are so many different important issues, and each household has a different one. And that is my goal, is to make sure that we represent the community, and Hastings may have a different issue that's more important to them than South St. Paul, but I'm going to serve them both equally, even though they're at the opposite ends of the district. So there is not one single most important piece of legislation. They're all important, especially if it comes from your home or your needs, and that's what I plan to do.
Thank you. And back to you, Ms. Homestead, on this question. If elected, what is your top item of legislation do you plan to focus on, and why?
If elected to the Minnesota Senate, I want to focus on getting the environment for Minnesotans and businesses to not just survive, but to thrive. We have a strong work ethic and some of the best educated people in the country, yet we rank 30th in job creation and 32nd in income growth. The Tax Foundation recently reported that Minnesota ranks almost last in the country for fostering a desirable business tax climate. We need to address the restrictions and regulations that businesses have, making Minnesota a friendlier business state. In addition, immediate tax relief will help businesses to thrive, improve the job market, and improve the quality of life for our families. With the average household income for individuals 65 or older being 13.7% below the U.S. average, and this is beneath the thresholds for the highest tax bracket, the cost of living in Minnesota is way above average. Minnesota is ranked the 8th worst state to retire in. It's time to stop taxing Social Security, military, government, and private pensions.
Thank you. And we are now at the point where the candidates will be allowed to ask a question to each other. The parameters, we have had parameters set for these questions, nothing personal, and something that could be understood by the general public. And they have been submitted in advance and been vetted for, so we shouldn't have any surprises here. Ms. Homestead, it's your turn to respond. So, Mr. Schoen, you may now ask your question to Ms. Homestead.
Leilani, will you disavow Donald Trump after he admitted to sexually assaulting women?
I will ask your question with a question. Will you disavow Hillary Clinton because her husband is a known rapist?
I don't believe
No, we can't
that's
ask
the way it works.
questions.
Okay. Well, that's, you know, as a woman and as a mother of 3 daughters, I'm appalled at what Trump said. But if I was to pick whether I wanted myself or my girls in a room alone with Trump or in a room alone with Clinton, I would pick Trump any day.
All right. And Ms. Homestead, it is your turn now to ask your question to Mr. Schoen.
With Governor Dayton stating that the Affordable Care Act is unaffordable, we now have major health care providers leaving Minnesota. With this exodus, Minnesota will have an additional expected 100,000 people uninsured, as reported by healthcare providers. These uninsured people are the hardworking families and small business owners of Minnesota. Those that get to keep the healthcare coverage, their premiums are set to skyrocket. Along with the news that doctors will be rewarded if healthcare is rationed, resulting in a decline of patient care to save money for a failed program. Mr. Schoen, you have said that MNsure is the right direction for Minnesota healthcare's future. Either you thought this would succeed and you were wrong, or you believed it would fail, leading to a single-payer healthcare. Were you wrong about MNsure, or were you dishonest to Minnesotans with the true intentions for a single-payer healthcare for all?
Well, I can tell you, Leilani, that a public option for Minnesotans to be able to purchase into the Minnesota care system, regardless of income, is a great option, and that it would be considered leading towards a single-payer system. What I will tell you is that those 100,000 people that are, insurance companies are not fleeing Minnesota. What insurance companies are doing is some pulled out of the marketplace. And what we ought to be able to say, and we could, is say, you can't do that. You can't just kick people off your insurance plan and send them off to no man's land and not have insurance. It's morally and ethically wrong. When insurance companies have billions in reserves and they're doing this to Minnesotans, you better believe we better be dialing down into what exactly is going on behind the scenes. Something's not right. Do we need to fix this? You better believe it. And I said this before. The Affordable Care Act is a piece of federal legislation. Congress has had the opportunity to make fixes, and they haven't done it. We've had opportunities at the state level. It hasn't been done, and we just need to work together to get those things done. It's not about repealing it.
Please wrap it up.
MNsure is the marketplace that was put in place because of the federal legislation. We could have had Wisconsin's model, and it would have been worse for Minnesotans right off the get-go. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. Should we expect better? You better believe it.
All right. Going on to our closing statement here, and Mr. Schoen, you will have the first opportunity at this one. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
Well, thank you to everybody here and everybody watching at home or later on online as well. I just want to say to the people of Hastings how proud I am to be standing here tonight. And over the last 4 years working with local officials, with Senator Sieben and Representative McNamara to further progress here in Hastings as well. One thing I do know about running for Senate and working full-time with 2 kids, it is not easy to get to nearly 80,000 people and meet every individual that I'd like to, and I wish I could. I've enjoyed great working relationships at the state capitol over the last 4 years with Republicans and Democrats, and I'll continue to do that in the Senate. My home phone number is 651-459-3753, and I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments. Otherwise, website is www.danshone.com, and I might have missed a W or 2 in there too when I said it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. And now to you, Ms. Homestead, your closing statement. Again, this is your final opportunity as well tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
I'm just like many people in the district. I'm an average person who is not a politician. I will be watching out for the family budgets. The time is now for the family budget to come first. It's my intention to be the voice at the Capitol, and I won't be there to serve my own interest, but to serve the people of the Senate District 54. Please support me for freedom for individuals, free market capitalism, and limited government. Vote for me, Leilani Homestead, November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you both again. We're with candidates for running for District 54 in our state Senate, Ms. Homestead and Mr. Schoen. How about a round of applause? Thank you both again. All right. And we made it. That concludes our forum for tonight, the Hastings Candidate Forum for 2016. Again, if any of you watching at home or here in the audience miss any of this, they will all be available on our YouTube channel. Just search for Hastings Community TV and look for that really cool 14 logo on there, and you'll find it right there. I want to thank the Hastings Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau, I got it all in there, for partnering with us on this. They assisted us quite a bit and helped out quite a bit to help pull this off. So I want to thank the Chamber. And I also want to thank the City of Hastings for all their accommodations and putting up with all of our last-minute questions and requests. So, and thank you all again for watching at home. And I hope that helped you make a more informed vote on November 8th. Please do so. Have a good night.